All right, Brian and Ryan, appreciate you guys jumping on the healthcare marketing podcast. During this downtime, you guys know that a lot of business owners are afraid, and and it's understandable because it's an uncertain time, and a lot of them don't know what to do with their finances. So I think as we uncover in this value pack podcast of their concerns, loan opportunities, retirement plans, financial planning. I think we're going to add a lot of value, especially with a lot of the doctors you work with and also their peers. So just would love to open up and let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump into this value pack podcast.
Okay, my name is Brian Swilling. I am co-founder of NaviPath Financial with Ryan Whitley. My background, I spent my first part of my career investment banking in New York City. Wanted to change, decided financial planning was where I wanted to be. I decided to move back home. Charlotte is home for me, and focus on financial planning. I grew up in a family of dentists. My dad and my sister are both dentists locally, and I knew, had a passion, had an understanding, and knew I wanted to focus on that. So Brian can give you his background, but we met and we both were focused on dentists. So we decided to form a financial planning practice for dentists. Our tagline is helping dentists navigate their unique path to financial independence. So that's kind of how we kind of focus our practice.
Nice. That's awesome. Brian?
Yeah, and I'm Ryan Whitley, the other half of NaviPath Financial. Brian and I started this firm a little over 5 years ago, and prior to that, for the past 15 years, I've been in the financial services, financial planning field here in the greater Charlotte area with a footprint throughout the Carolinas and the Southeast. And the focus really after the first couple of years was working with business owners. And then over the years that transitioned from business owners to predominantly practice owners. Brian grew up in a family of dentists. I married into a family of dentists. So it's we always get a chuckle when we say that. So we really have a unique understanding of the practice financials, ideally separating the two as much as possible, the practice and the personal side. So our goal is over the years, we just help our practice owners work towards standing independently outside of their practice on their own 2 feet from a financial standpoint, instead of using the practice as a constant revolver to fund lifestyle. And then we get to retirement, we're kind of like that oh crap type moment. What do we do now? We got to sell this practice for multiples of what it's worth. We've financially prepared ourselves outside of practice to take that next step, whatever that may be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How'd you guys meet?
Yeah, we actually started, if you understand the business, we started the same time with an independent broker dealer, and we're running separate practices. And then because we had a focus, we decided to team up. I think most of our business owners want a team support. They don't want one guy in an office. So we figured there's some synergies there with our diverse backgrounds. Ryan's a CFP and my investment background, just felt like the team was better that way.
That's awesome. And just for the audience, can you, if you can you let them understand how many dentists you currently work with?
Yeah, so we work with about 20 dentists in different, mainly through leading with financial planning, but we also work with an additional amount of dentists, maybe just on the retirement planning side or just in the investments. So we do have different offerings for the different dentist needs, but because we're so comprehensive, we don't want to take on too many new clients all at the same time.
Sure, that makes sense. So, with the type of clients you work with, specifically dentists, what are some of the concerns you're currently hearing from them?
Yeah, the biggest concern we're hearing from our dentists recently is just the speed at which they went from planning for a good year to shut down completely. So what we've been doing a lot is initially, was a conversation about, the markets are dropping. But after those initial conversations with all our clients, which we had early on, it was shortly after kind of the market dropped, their practices shut down. So that conversation switched from I'm worried about my investments to I'm worried about where my income's coming from.
Right.
So what we've been, so a lot of our conversations are around managing that surprise, the uncertainty and the emotion related to being a business owner and then being forced to shut down. So early on, we had to manage that emotion, help clients come up with a plan. Then it was, what do we do with staff? Like, how do we furlough? So helping them work through that. But now it's a conversation about what is reopening going to look like?
Right.
Are we going to hire back employees? Are they going to come back because they might be making more on unemployment? Are patients going to be comfortable coming back in? And it always looks like, I was thinking about this last night actually, and a lot of what, dentists are going through in their practice is kind of what we go through when the markets come down, right? All of a sudden, 2020 was supposed to be a pretty good year in the markets and the economy, and then all of a sudden it's not. So we're having to manage the unknown, right? So our clients that were planning with us, it feels like they were a lot less stressed than those we've heard kind of through other parties where they didn't have the cash flow, the liquidity, or advisors to talk to. And we're not the only advisors, our practice owners like to use. We tell them they need to gather a team.
Yeah.
So that's marketing, that's accounting, that's financial planning, that's a business coach, right? That's a lawyer, right? So I feel like our practice owners that have that team built out and that team communicates, have been very successful. But again, we don't really know what the world's going to look like when we reopen and how that reopening is going to look like, and the difference between the state you're in and those guidelines and whether, patients are going to come back. So most of the conversation is, having a worst case scenario, having a best case scenario, and then kind of planning for either outcome. But we do believe, just like the market, when the markets go down, there's opportunity. When everybody else is panicking, you stay calm. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunity for dentists coming out of this uncertainty. There's going to be some that are going to struggle. And I think it was a matter of time that some of those dentists were going to struggle anyway. Just this accelerated that struggle.
Sure.
But the ones that plan properly, I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I'm not sure what that opportunity is going to look like. Maybe it's teledentistry. Maybe it's expanded patient base later on. Maybe it's more efficient hygiene. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I feel like there always is opportunity in chaos, and those who find that opportunity and capture it are going to be well off in the long run.
Yeah, that's awesome. With that, when it comes to opportunities, when we think about the loan process where a lot of these dentists are applying for the PPP loan, how do you help them manage if they're approved for that?
Yeah, so most of the dentists I talk to have already gone through that process, and almost every dentist I spoke to has applied for it. Depending on the bank they went through and how fast they got their application in, it's like night and day versus, some dentists are said they got approved, but they never got a loan application. And we're in the second round of PPP funding, and they just don't know. So they're sitting here just wondering, I can't get a banker on the phone. These are usually the bigger banks that you can't get a banker on the phone.
Right.
There's no online update. And then there's some people who got the loan approved and funded within 3 business days, right?
Wow.
So there's a huge difference. But a lot of that conversation, goes from, do I get it? Which most of our dentists and other medical professionals are yes. They did get it. Then it's about how to use it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of information out there, and actually daily feels like there's a new update on specifying exactly how those proceeds should be used. But it really is important to plan out that kind of best and worst case scenario for that plan, which I've mentioned before, because you have 8 weeks to spend those funds.
Right.
75% of those funds have to be payroll. So you got to really project your cash flow out to see, well, what will payroll look like if my schedule is full? What will it look like if not?
Yeah.
Do I pay flat fees to make sure I get that 75%? So you got to kind of plan out multiple different scenarios. And I know there's some dental specific CPAs out there, and we have access to it, but cash flow planning spreadsheets that you can use that can help you cash flow that. But I mean, the main thing is to maximize forgiveness of your PPP loan. It needs to be spent within 8 weeks, and 75% of it needs to be payroll. So there's some strategy around it and timing around it. You don't want to obviously just hire people back if you're in a state that is not open yet, right? Because you could spend a big portion of it before you need to pay staff. So there's no silver bullet, as they say, for how to use it. But again, looping in your experts, your lenders, your CPA, your financial planner, and if there's staffing issues, maybe your HR professional into those conversations to determine what is the best way forward for you specifically, not what everybody else is doing.
So you guys will help coach them through like how to manage that, that money essentially.
Yeah, in an ideal situation, we are quarterbacking that conversation. We're not the experts in that, but we like to quarterback that because, again, we're going to be that holistic planning view and bring in the experts, your insurance, your accounting, your legal experts when necessary. But it's helpful when we're that quarterback. Right.
No, that makes sense. So I guess with, I think it's this Friday that, North Carolina is lifting some of the stay-at-home restrictions. I mean, like currently some of our clients, we had a dental practice open up last Friday, and then we had, one open up on Monday, and then some are following suit after the 8th. What are you guys seeing in terms of, your clients opening during this time frame?
Yeah, so we have some clients that had very little emergency work during this time. So they really weren't open at all, but for some administrative issues, situations, just doing planning. But then we had some people, last couple of weeks that have been full with emergency and or semi-emergency related activities. So we kind of have a mix. We've heard most people are opening up this week and then fully opening up next week, or is opening up as fully as they can get their schedule next week. But we also have people maybe with older dentists, older staff, delaying that opening until their staff feels more comfortable, depending on which area you're in, whether you're in Charlotte, which might not be out of its peak, or you're in a rural area. It depends on geography and kind of age of staff, comfort level of staff.
For sure. So as they, get to that point where they're planning to reopen, how are you guys helping to manage their personal and practice debt? Even though, during this time frame, they haven't made much money.
Yeah, that's a great question. The vast majority of our practice owners, we were advising initially when all this started, 6-8 weeks ago, to start contacting their lenders for their practice debt and start asking for deferment of their interest and principal payments. The vast majority received deferments for those anywhere from 30, 60, 90 days, some up to 6 months. So that was good. Also, for student loans, federal student loans, the government came out and said that all those payments are deferred until September 30th of this year. So that was very straightforward and easy. So most folks have already done that. the big thing now that we're looking at for our folks is when they are transitioning back into reopening their practice, as they do it kind of in a staggered reopening, if it's this week, next week, or reduced hours, whatever that may be.
Sure.
As cash flow starts coming back to support those debt payments that they have on the practice. And then on the personal side too, many of our folks did the same thing. They asked for deferments for some of their personal loans, if it's their primary residence or any other debt they may have. It gets a little stickier there. So if you're doing that, reach out. We can have a conversation to help with that, because there might be some balloon payments associated with things. But as folks look at their current debt situation, it's just a phenomenal time to review that debt and consider some refinancing options.
Yeah.
Rates are incredibly low, and banks are offering very generous terms when it comes to refinancing that debt. So you might have your debt deferred for a couple of months, but you can refi debt with some more favorable terms than you probably have now, and then defer those initial payments on that refi debt. So it all comes back to managing cash flow and understanding how cash flow flows through your practice and on the personal side, and what really fits into your budget and saving strategies. But we're seeing the folks that are working through the process right now, as they're reopening and talking to their lenders, that there are some very, very favorable refi options out there. So that's a process that we are helping a lot of our clients through, and that we're happy to talk through with others as you're talking and negotiating with different banks.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if your PPP hasn't fully gone through yet, most banks are allowing you to, if you ever had the emergency disaster loan, the EIDL loan, you can refi that with the PPP. So add that to the PPP loan.
Oh, wow.
And get better interest rates. So I've seen that. So you can also talk to your bank about that flexibility.
Wow, that's awesome. That's very interesting information and content, because I would say a lot of the dentists we talk to may not even know that. Some of those, those extra steps they can use with the loan, and, using that towards another type of loan or grant. So that's awesome.
Probably not. And that really just goes back to what Brian was touching on earlier, just having that constant communication with your circle and team of advisors. And everybody has a different view and insight for similar topics that others may not always consider. And that's how you really have that well-rounded team to support you in your practice. Because it's a lot running a business. Right.
You're exactly right. And I think what I'm hearing a lot from you guys is just planning, making sure they're planning during this time frame. So you also think about, I don't know if you guys saw, I think I saw in the news, I don't remember which airline it was, but 700 pilots retired during this time frame. That's a lot, right? 700 pilots. So hopefully a lot of dentists don't just start retiring. But what have you seen when it comes to helping them manage their retirement plan, especially when you think about, spending or reducing their benefits? Like how have you helped coach them through that?
Yeah, so it's really scary early on because we weren't sure what to do when this new legislation was coming out. And fortunately, with the PPP loan that the vast majority of our folks have applied for, been approved for, and most have been funded at this point or are waiting to be funded, there's been some updated guidance around that. So the employer match on retirement plans, so think of those as your simple IRAs, which some of our clients have, but the majority, if they have a retirement plan, it's going to be a 401k.
Yeah.
So the employer match for what your employee contributes, that is an expense that can be funded with the PPP loan.
Gotcha.
So many folks were concerned early on, like, well, we can't continue the retirement plan. We don't know what to do with it. There's never been a better time to really review your retirement plan. And if you need to make changes to that retirement plan because of the coronavirus and what is going on, it's basically with the economic disaster relief loan and other things that are there, we can say if there is a hardship, we can amend, change a retirement plan. So we have very few folks that are completely suspending or closing down their plans. The vast majority are continuing their plans, but anybody that has, for example, a profit sharing component layered onto their retirement plan, the 401k plan, or even a cash balance plan, layered onto that end. The nice thing about those components are that really up until the time that we file our taxes. So when we file our taxes for the tax year 2020, so next April of 2021, most of those decisions are typically made in the fourth quarter or the first quarter of next year. So we've got a good amount of time to make those decisions if we're going to be making those larger contributions to the plan. And those are really the big pops that help the dentist and practice owners themselves, where they can put up to $60,000 into the plan. If they're doing a 401k, or if they're doing a cash balance plan, it's $250,000 or so. So it's a significant amount. But right now, we just don't know what profitability in the practice is going to look like until we get back and up and running. And hopefully we have a phenomenal second half of the year. But until patients are back and they're comfortable coming in and we have full schedules week after week, month after month, we don't know what it's going to look like. But in short, the vast majority of folks have continued their retirement plan to some extent. We are reviewing a ton of these. So if anybody has their plan document and wants us to take a look at them, feel free just to reach out and zip it on over, and we can look through that. We've got a really, really strong team behind us on the retirement planning side that looks at these. And if any plan needs to be amended, or some changes need to be made, or if it's just reducing fees within the plan because there's been fee compression in the industry, it's a great time to look at that. And that just fits into cash flow planning, what we've been kind of going back to for everything, and understanding our expenses and cash flow, and trying to streamline that and make it as efficient as possible. So those are the big things on the retirement plan side. There are also some other things, coronavirus related distributions that the government have made available. Hopefully most folks don't have to use these, or I was going to say take advantage, but it's really in a bad situation when you'd have to leverage something like this. So for example, if someone were to pull money out of a retirement plan prior to age 59 and a half, there would typically be a 10% early withdrawal penalty. And then you'd still pay ordinary income taxes on that. That 10% withdrawal penalty has been waived if it's coronavirus related. Also, if you take a loan from the plan, that's been increased from $50,000 up to $100,000 that you have available to you to take from the plan. And then if you want to repay that, you've got up to 3 years to repay that. And then let's see, what's the last one? Oh, R&Ds have been waived for the tax year 2020. So that's more of our retired folks. If they're depending on certain age, it's either 70 and a half or 72, which most folks are now, they're forced to take a certain amount out of their retirement plan. But the vast majority of our practice owners, this will not apply to. If you have questions on that one-off, folks are welcome to reach out to us. We can walk them through that circumstance.
Yeah, clarify or add one thing to what Ryan said, and benefits related. So when we talked about what's forgivable in the PPP loan, salaries and benefits, including all benefits of health insurance, disability. So anything in standard payroll is considered part of that payroll calculation. So 75% of payroll. So the PPP loan, so all your current benefits would be technically forgivable if it's 75% or more of the overall loan proceeds used. So again, it gets very complicated, but that's one of the reasons why most of our dentists continued benefits, because they want to support their staff, and it is forgivable as part of salary.
Right. And to that point, it's also attractive to your employees that when they come back, that they're still going to have benefits. I think that helps from a mindset standpoint. And, as they continue to want to work in that dental practice, I think that's very imperative to continue to do. And I think what you guys are saying, a lot of dentists just don't know, like they can do some of those things. So thanks for providing that information. And with benefits and retirement planning, it's all about, it's an investment, right? Like it's an investment, just like marketing is an investment for our clients. How are you guys helping them manage or invest during this uncertain time in the market?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. As Brian touched on early on, before practice started shutting down, all of our conversations were around the market and the chaos and how quickly the market was dropping. It's something that we've never seen before, how quickly that happened. And the vast majority of our long-term clients, we've developed a strategic investment plan for them. And those investments are managed differently depending on the type of investment. So for example, retirement money is managed differently than non-retirement money. We've got the ability to take on more risk if we have a longer time horizon, for example. So understanding which in each investment that we have, first off, and the importance of that investment and what it's earmarked for is very important. So we definitely want to have a strategic process around that for every investment account that we have with our clients. So, and first and foremost, we want to make sure we manage emotions and avoid rash decisions.
Right.
Because as we all know, when we make a emotion-filled rash decision, it's probably not in our best interest, whatever that may be. If it's in our personal lives, in our practice lives, and in our investing lives. And when we start making rash decisions with our money, that typically doesn't lead to the best results. So when we always have a plan that we work through with our clients. We want to align their investments with their actual risk appetite. All 70-year-olds don't have to be invested one way. All 30-year-olds don't have to be invested another way. We need to align their investments with their risk appetite and the amount of risk they're willing to take and the time horizon for that bucket of money. And since we've had this significant correction in the market, what we've been doing to best capture the potential recovery is making sure all of the portfolios are efficiently optimized based on kind of the reality of where we are now. We are not managing money the way we managed it 8 weeks ago, because we've made some updates to our portfolios based on new market conditions. And then as we move forward, we want to make sure we are constantly rebalancing to manage the continued volatility that we expect, so we stay aligned with our initial investment objectives. And then with folks that we have on monthly or quarterly investment plans that they're putting money in so often, we want to continue that, because that's called dollar cost averaging. When we keep making those contributions, that allows us to continue to invest in the market at different price points. So right now it's much lower than it was 2 months ago.
Right.
And just our biggest piece of advice for folks is that if they could just stay invested, understand this is a long-term game. And we do have significant volatility and there's significant opportunity there. So we're looking at how we can best take advantage of that. So having that conversation with us or another investment professional, we're here to help. We take a very conservative approach because our clients have the ability to earn a great income, and through cash flow, they can support that through an investment strategy. So we're not trying to get overly aggressive anywhere. And just know, I'm closing with this point, that the best days often follow the worst. So if you just subtract the market, some days we see it's down 1,500 points, and the next day it might be up 2,000 points.
Exactly.
There's some significant swings. So don't make those rash decisions. Don't pull out everything. Don't go move the cash in a rash decision, because you're going to miss some of that potential upside. We don't know when it's going to come. We just want to be optimized, make sure our portfolios are most efficiently optimized for when that recovery does come.
Yeah, and to add a quick point to that, I mean, there could be a few dentists, medical professionals that were planning maybe even retiring this year, right? We've had a couple of those conversations. Hey, I was planning on retiring this year, but maybe it's going to be next year. And there's just a lot of uncertainty with their practice. So, they make a rash decision related to the investments because they're like, well, I'm retiring next year. I can't take any more losses. But like Ryan said, yeah, you're retiring next year, but that money needs to last 30 years, right? So making sure you optimize that, and a portion of that, you might take some risk off the table, but a portion of that needs to stay invested, or your money's not going to last. So for anybody having that thought, make sure you talk to your investment professional. And if you don't have access to one, we can offer free portfolio reviews for that.
They all just need to call you guys.
Of
Seriously.
course, everybody should call us, right? I mean,
So I guess one closing question for you guys is when it comes to financial planning strategies for the future, whether that's 30, 60, 90 days or however long that strategy is, years, like how do you help them manage that process? How do you help them strategize personal and practice financial planning?
yeah, and I think with this downtime, a lot of our clients use this time to reassess, their personal and financial and their personal and practice kind of cash flow. Look at it, what it looked like in the past. They might have been too busy to fully understand it.
Yeah.
And use this time to fully understand, what am I spending in my household and what am I spending in my practice, and then work with us to make some guesses, right? And these are all guesses. Like we can't predict the future, and we can't hold ourselves accountable to hit exactly what this guess is, right? But the key to financial planning is it's consistent and ongoing, right? So we'll come up with a plan, maybe it's just one page, right? Here are the goals for the next 30, 60, 90 days. And then start taking little steps to meet those goals. And if those goals seem off, we'll reassess, right? So it's, one of the things, early on and reopening we see is cash flow needs to be focused on, communicating, with patients. Are you communicating efficiently and proactively and consistently? And then are you continuing to market, right? Again, there's a lot of dislocation in the dental space. Those who are marketing emergency care and giving updates on their plans and what staff are doing are going to be the ones, the practices that are top of mind when things get back to normal. And somebody who might be concerned about going back and has not heard anything from their dentist or any medical provider might be even more hesitant. But if they saw like my dentist, the standards of cleanliness are pretty high in dental care, but just reminding people that it's really high and we're taking these extra steps and we're concerned about your health and wellness, I think those people are going to have happy, less concerned patients when we start back. So that marketing, that communication is key there.
Yeah, and I would say to the marketing aspect, one thing that we've done with a lot of the dentists that we work with is really help them come up with a reopening approach or game plan to help them capture some of this, market share online when patients are finally, getting more comfortable to go out and, get their dental treatment taken care of. Because a lot of these patients may have, an emergency, dental case that was going on, or, they just need a cleaning or whatever the case may be. But to your point of effectively communicating with them. So I know you guys know Dr. Haynes. He's a dentist here in the Charlotte area, but he's communicated via email, his website, social media is very proactive in how he communicates with a lot of his patients. And then also, some of the, with Google, it's a very complex algorithm, but it takes time to really get the results that you need from ranking in Google. So if someone's searching for, dentist in Ballantyne, it's going to take a while because the competition is steep. There's a lot of dental practices in Ballantyne. But if you shut your marketing off or your SEO strategies off when it comes to showing up in Google, you're just getting behind, the curve, because it's very hard to do that. So a lot of the dental practice that we work with, we just told them from a financial standpoint, there's no need to invest in a large marketing game plan. You can reduce the marketing budget, but still do something versus turning it off completely, because you're going to lose that market share and you're not going to gain momentum, especially when, the country opens back up. So that's kind of been our approach to a lot of our clients. And then there's those that can do emergency care or teledentistry. Emergency care, what we've seen with even Google Ads right now, the costs for Google Ads are like by far the lowest we've seen because there's just not a lot of competition. So if they're offering emergency, dentistry, they should be running some type of Google Ads to get in front of those patients that are in pain now, because it's not even about marketing. It's about servicing those patients that need that emergency treatment care now. To your point of having, all the sanitation measures in place, I think a lot of dentists do a really good job at that. And then the last thing I would say is really right now, if they don't have a marketing coach or marketing team to walk them through the steps of how to, really plan for reopening from a marketing standpoint, or even to capture some of the new features that Google is allowing within their platform, they're missing a lot of opportunity for their practice long term. So for example, I have a podcast coming out this week on Google My Business, the Google My Business profile for dentists. It has two new features. So one is the COVID-19 letter, and then the other one is a virtual appointment link. So essentially what we're doing for all of our dentists, we put a form at the top of their website that just says COVID-19 letter. And it just gives the patients an update on, the operating hours, when they plan to open, their sanitation measures and all that good stuff. And so in that Google My Business profile, you can point your letter to that profile. And then also if you're doing teledentistry or virtual care, you can point your teledentistry, appointment page on that Google My Business profile. Now the value in that is if someone searches for, let's say, they're in Charlotte or anywhere in the country and they're searching for teledentistry, but they're in the dental practices proximity, that dental practice is going to seem more valuable to Google because they have teledentistry information on their website, then also in their Google My Business profile. Same for the COVID-19 letter. They're proactively talking about how they plan to attack their reopening with this COVID-19 letter, and they're syncing that with their Google My Business profile, which if someone's just searching for immediate care, they're not even searching dentistry, that COVID-19 letter gives them more value over their competition. So to your point, it's really, game planning, optimizing, staying positive, but, doing something, like not completely shutting it off so that you're kind of behind the 8 ball once things get back to normal.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And again, taking advantage of these opportunities is going to be key, right?
For sure.
Having cheap Google ads and more efficient SEO, it was it's an expensive process normally, so it's good to have some opportunity there.
Absolutely. Well, I would just love for you guys to, if you have any one last, words of encouragement for, dentists as they kind of, navigate through these uncertain times, just any words of encouragement.
Yeah, I would say just with proper planning with your reopening strategy and proper education of your staff and your existing patients and patients that you are marketing to, potential prospective patients. We expect once we see these practices reopen and that patients are comfortable with the cleanliness and the safety of the practice, and that's from getting that information out there to them, that we expect our dental practices and medical practices to have some of the busiest months they've ever had, because there's going to be significant pin-up demand.
Yeah.
The ones that really lean in and put that information, that content out there and have those protocols in place are the ones that are going to really succeed and thrive coming out of this. And right. It might be working some extended hours during the existing days they're open, maybe being open Fridays, half-day Fridays, full-day Fridays, Saturday mornings, if they have the staff and the patient volume and flow to support that. So just making sure you've got the right team around you and just grinding away the next couple of months. And when we look back on 2020, hopefully we can find that it's been a very trying time in our businesses, but a efficient use of time that we put in. We did have some downtime. We came out a lot stronger on the other side.
Right. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, and to add what Brian said, I mean, the biggest problem everybody's facing is just stress, uncertainty, family, dealing with work while having your family, while
Right.
whatever your situation is, it's different. And going back to work, it's not going to be all back to normal, right? It's going to be a transition period. So yeah, like use this time, hopefully we look back on this time and we have positive thoughts, but make sure, in the long run, we will get through this. We don't know what the new normal is going to look like, but it'll feel like normal eventually. and we'll all be okay. Dentistry is not a, dentistry in any medical professional is not something that's going to go away. The need's there. So just think long-term. Don't let the short-term stresses derail long-term plans.
Yeah. And we're here to help, so obviously reach out. We're happy to have a conversation and see if we can add some value to you and your practice.
Awesome. And we'll put how they can contact you guys in the description, but can you just open up and tell them how they can find you?
Sure. Yeah. We're NaviPath Financial. So our website is navipathfinancial.com. We're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but the vast majority of our clients are in the Carolinas, then throughout the Southeast. And then we'll have our emails there. It's R.Whitley at WR Advisors for me, and then B. Swilling for Brian at WR Advisors for him. And then we'll have all the contact information that you can provide Lamar.
Yeah.
And then there's some follow-up links to some of the talking points that we had if anybody wants to dive a little deeper.
Yeah, and we'll include those in the description of this podcast as well. Hey, Ryan and Brian, I appreciate you guys. I think this was a very valuable podcast, especially for dentists who are trying to navigate during these uncertain times from a financial standpoint. I thank you again for joining the Healthcare Digital Marketing Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been a great one.
Thanks soon.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks.